2018 scholars, distinguished guests, welcome to this Coming Up dinner. It's my great pleasure to call upon the Warden to speak with us.
Thank you so much, Sir John, and welcome to all of you to the 2018 Rhodes Coming Up Dinner. This is the occasion when the Rhodes Trust officially and formally welcomes its newest cohort of scholars to Oxford. And it has a long history, this particular dinner. In fact, it was one of the few things, along with the leaving or going down dinner, that were specifically written into Cecil Rhodes's will. And indeed, one of the reasons this house was built. The Rhodes Trust had originally operated from London, but with the requirement for a venue large enough to hold this dinner, plus the desire to be more on the ground in Oxford, the trustees commissioned the construction of Rhodes House. Now, the Rhodes class of 2018, which I have to say, looks incredibly beautiful and lovely and elegant. I mean, oh my goodness, you all look fantastic. Let's give you a round of applause here. No, you are the largest and most diverse class of Rhodes Scholars in our history. And you are such a lovely, warm, and engaging group. I know transitions can be challenging, but I hope and trust that by now all of you have had those magical moments, even if they're just moments, of saying, oh wow, I'm feeling at home here. I'm feeling settled here. This is such an extraordinary place, and I encourage you to relish the beautiful surroundings and buildings, to embrace Oxford's eccentric traditions, and above all, to forge and find your own exciting intellectual community within Oxford's ecosystem of world-class inquiry, research, and teaching. Now, I know from having met many of you that you're already doing that, and it has been so delightful to hear your excitement about what you're studying and what your plans are. But you're also connecting with each other in really wonderful ways and supporting each other through this journey. And I hope that your community will get stronger and stronger in the coming months and years as you find in your fellow Rhodes Scholars amazing people who will challenge your thinking, change your perspective, and become your friends for life. So this evening we celebrate and welcome all of you, but I also want to take a moment to thank and recognize a few other very special people. First, our trustees, who are with us this evening, including our board chair, Sir John Hood, and our second century founder, John McCall McBain. You know, the Rhodes Trust has remained strong through many, many ups and downs, thanks above all to the extraordinary efforts of these generous volunteers, stellar strategic thinkers, and thoughtful leaders who give of their time, wisdom, and treasure because they believe in you. They're passionate about you, and they want to make sure that we can continue to support Rhodes Scholarship. So may I ask all of our trustees to please stand so we may recognize and thank you. We're also joined this evening, I'm so excited about this, by not one but two former wardens, John Rowett and Sir Anthony Kenny. And Sir Kenny, who was actually Master of Balliol when I was a student back in the 1980s. I am so delighted to welcome them, along with Lady Kenny, back to Rhodes House and to thank them for their service to the Rhodes Trust. And would you please stand so we may thank you. Many thanks also to all of our other special guests, senior leaders from the university, heads of house, committee members, donors, and friends, as well as my wonderful, hardworking Rhodes House colleagues. Let's take a moment now to recognize and thank our incredible events and catering staff for arranging this gorgeous feast. And I should say, in particular, Julie Knight, our mistress of ceremonies, who's amazing. This evening, we also celebrate some of our most dedicated volunteers around the world through the George Parkin Service Award. This is the highest award that the Trust bestows on scholars and friends of the scholarship who contribute as volunteers to the work of the Trust. Now, George Parkin's involvement in the Rhodes Scholarship stems from 1902, although his connection to Cecil Rhodes goes back even further, since he matriculated at Oxford the very same day as Cecil Rhodes. The trustees invited him as organizing secretary to undertake the daunting task of translating the idea of the Rhodes Scholarships into a working system. One of the first books I read after I arrived here in August was his history of the Rhodes Scholarships, which was published in 1913. George Parkin was described as one of the most impressive public speakers of his day and rightly deserves to be called the second founder of the Rhodes Scholarships. Why? Well, among other things, he journeyed around the world, laying the foundations of the scholarship system as we know it today, and wrestling with the practical questions of how the wishes of the founder could be translated into formal regulations. He traveled to, and this is before jet engine aircraft, he was on boats. He traveled to the United States, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Bermuda, the West Indies, Newfoundland, and Eastern Canada. So he traveled 140,000 miles in 2 years. He held countless conferences, sought interviews, and generated rousing enthusiasm for this exciting new idea of the Rhodes Scholarships. And he also had some adventures. With classic understatement, he wrote to Hawksley, "I had some odd experiences after leaving Jamaica. I had arranged to cross to Cuba. At last I found a cattle ship. A stormy night on a Norwegian tramp vessel with 300 loose oxen on the decks is an experience not easily forgotten." So George Parkin definitely deserves to have this volunteer award named for him. One of his most significant achievements was to create the selection committee system, which has had such a lasting impact on our scholarships. So the George Parkin Service Award recognizes those whose contributions to the Rhodes Trust is equally significant. So this leads me to our 2 George Parkin Award winners being celebrated this evening. First, I'm going to introduce you to both of them and then invite both forward to get their awards. So first, Narain Khan, Michigan and St. Anthony's, 2006, who is a program officer at the Ford Foundation and was one of the founders and creators, really dreamed up the idea of the Welcome Home Weekend in North America, which has now been held twice very successfully with more editions planned for the coming years. She led its development and its execution. This Welcome Home Weekend program is composed of mentoring, career planning, and service. It has now reached roughly 70 recently gone down scholars based out of the US and has also proved instrumental in building and strengthening the ties of the alumni community across the US and increasing the cooperation between Rhodes House and the Association of American Rhodes Scholars. She additionally has served in selection. I know she was meeting with some current scholars that she's helped to select today, and has served for several years on the board of the Association of American Rhodes Scholars. So please, Narain, why don't you stand and we can give you a warm round of applause. She has fans. Our second George Parkin Service Award winner is Dennis Hutchinson, Colorado and Maudlin, 1970, who is a faculty member at the University of Chicago. He retired as a U.S. Rhodes District Selection Secretary last year after having served the Rhodes Trust as a selector for a magnificent 35 years, including the last 17 as district secretary. He's also served as the American Oxonian class secretary for 28 years and counting, and on the AARS board for 8 years. During this time, he has also chaired the Ida Lott Kiefer Smith Book Fund, which annually donates books by American authors to the Rothermere American Institute. So he has contributed in countless ways to the work of the Trust and to Oxford University. He's not able to join us this evening, but he's being represented, we're delighted to say, by his daughter, Catherine Hutchinson. So Catherine, would you stand so we can... I now invite Noreen and Catherine to come forward and receive your awards. I would also like to acknowledge our 4 other George Parkins Service Award winners who were selected to receive the award this year, and they'll receive their awards in person next year. They are Ms. Camilla Borg, former Director of Special Projects at the Rhodes Trust, Ms. Swati Mailavarapu, Florida and Wolfson, 2005, Mr. Sangu Della, and Dr. Andrew Wilkinson, Prairies and Maudlin, 1980, who I know is very familiar to all of the Canadian Rhodes Scholars here this evening. So again, congratulations to our Parkins Service Award winners. Thank you all so much for being here. Congratulations to the great Rhodes Scholarship Class of 2018. Please enjoy your dinner.
Sure, go ahead.